Welcome into the show. I wish this was a little bit better news after the Rockets fall 122 to 109 in Dallas. The second game of a back-to-back. Rockets missing both Alperen Sengun and Steven Adams. We thought Sengun would be back for this game, but the illness took him out of two straight games, which is really tough. And Adams just by default misses this game. Because it's the second game of back-to-back. So Rockets really struggled inside, especially defending Anthony Davis tonight. Tough game there, but there's going to be a lot to talk about from this game. I'm here with David Weiner. You know him as Beam a Thug, and Little Beam a Thug, his son, Michael Weiner. Michael, appreciate you joining us for this one. Both huge Rockets fans, and we'll have definitely a lot to say about this game. But the defense on AD was only part of the story. Really, Ime Udoka said it very simply. It was turnovers that killed the Rockets tonight. And, in fact, that really, a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it was Amen Thompson and Reed Sheppard in that third quarter. I'll start with you, Michael. What was your overall thoughts watching this game? I know also for both of you guys, David's wife and Michael's mom is a huge Dallas fan. This is especially tough to lose to the Mavericks. So I'm sure there's going to be a little emotion there on that. But Michael, I'll start with you. What were some of your thoughts, watching this game?
Obviously a terrible loss. I thought this game showed some of the flaws in our half-court offense without getting second chance points. And we also missed just Sengun's interior scoring. But other than KD and Jabari, there wasn't really a lot of buckets going around.
Yeah, David, feel free to hop in there as well. Any thoughts you had initially just watching this game?
I'm apparently not as mature as my son. This was a dog shit performance from the Rockets. Outside of KD scoring and Jabari had a nice scoring night, just the team defense was god awful. And my goodness, Amen Thompson and Reed Sheppard were terrible tonight. Now, Reed Sheppard shows a positive plus minus, but his third quarter minutes, I think, were the worst minutes any player on this team has played all year. He got driven. There was one stretch where he missed a three, was driven by and scored on, threw a pick six, threw another pick six, got his pocket pick, and there was another pick six.
Yeah.
It was terrible. The fans deserve better than the effort they got from a lot of the guys on this team tonight.
But the funny part is I really thought Reed had a solid first half. That's what was kind of frustrating. At least he came in offensively. He was 4 or 5 in the first half, kind of gave them a jolt or a burst when they needed that offensively. But the third quarter was a disaster class from Reed, no question. But I think that it was overshadowed by Amen Thompson the whole game. Amen Thompson had one of the greatest highlights you'll see. Well, I don't want to overstate it, but a really great highlight where he had this block straight up on Anthony Davis when he was just going for a two-handed flush with nobody there. And for a 6'6" guard forward come in and block that was amazing. The highlight was great. That's it. I really felt the whole game, Amen was just brutal. He had 6 turnovers, was 2 for 11 from the field. And he's been great all year for the most part this year. This was frustrating on a night when Sengun's out and Steven Adams is out. I thought both of them, you could have used Sengun certainly offensively. You really could have used Adams defensively. Not having them in the game, you needed Amen to step up. And I just thought tonight he really basically laid an egg. It's a second game of back-to-back. We could probably make a few different excuses for him, but overall, I thought he had a really terrible game.
Yeah, everyone talks about the athleticism, and if you get into the paint, you just can't finish. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He just wasn't finishing. I mean, he got into the paint plenty of times, and then he did a little fadeaway where he kind of pumps. He pumps and hangs in the air, and sometimes that drops. But, I mean, it's so much easier if he just releases the ball at the top of his jump. And instead, he looked like it was the second night of a back-to-back. He was just short on so many of those little, in the paint jumpers, and then just sloppy play, sloppy passing all the way around. And then with Capella, I think it was a case of the rotation was all out of whack, and you had guys playing with Capella who maybe aren't used to playing with Capella at the time of the game. And, Durant, Amen, Jabari, I think there were like 4 different guys tried to make bounce passes in the paint in traffic to Capella. And he's not going to catch that. He's not going to catch those passes.
Yeah.
They got to know better that like Şengün will for sure catch those. Adams maybe will catch those. Capella's not going to get them. You got to throw it up to Capella. And there was just really sloppy passing all the way around.
Yeah, I think that was, we've talked big picture about Amen, the point guard. Point guard is such an outdated term in describing what they believe in Amen to be. I mean, yes, they're going to keep using that. That's the position. But it's that they think he could be an on-ball primary engine type of guy. That doesn't mean every single down, but consistently, have the ball at times. And tonight was showing that was just like, whoa, he's got a ways to go. He's had great showings, but tonight was just one where with Şengün out, that's the opportunity for him to sort of show that. And I just thought it really lacked, for what it's worth. Ime was asked about Amen specifically. He said he thought he missed some easy shots early, and he just said he didn't think he was aggressive on his drives. Ime, like I said, he focused on the turnovers, 11 at halftime. He said it was a huge focus for the team, going into the locker room and to talk about, basically limiting the turnovers. And he said it got worse in the third quarter. And we've certainly rehashed that, what happened with Reed. I thought also Najee Marshall, some of these other guys were focusing and picking on Reed a little bit when he was on the defensive end, just as far as getting that one-on-one matchup to go at him. Thought that was an issue at times tonight. It's frustrating because I thought he played decently in the first half, certainly was hitting the shots, but it just goes to show the bar for Reed is going to be high on the offense. He can't have, a really poor shooting night because, the defense is not there yet. And he's got good defensive potential, but it's probably going to be a while. He's got to bring that kind of offense every night.
I also thought just on defense, rotations were late. They had a lot of open threes, which they didn't make a ton of, but still need to be faster on defense.
Yeah, exactly, Michael. I mean, I think there were a lot of guys either missed rotations or 2 guys running to the same guy, and the Mavs had so many wide open threes. I think PJ Washington must have had like 5 or 6 wide open corner threes, it felt like. And it was to the point where, especially in the second half, you'd see guys that miss the rotation, and then the closest player to the shooter doesn't even close out. It just kind of jogs over there. Something you'd see one of these deep lottery team, the top 5 lottery pick having teams, that kind of defensive effort. It was really disheartening to see not only the poor defensive rotations, but then exacerbating it by not correcting it with hard closeouts.
Yeah. So, the game started 9 of 11. The Mavs were to start the game. Rockets were kind of down. I think it was 9, might've got double digits early. Then they kind of woke up, and really it was Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was awesome in this first couple, let's just say first half. I believe he had 20 of his 27 in the first half. Matter of fact, he hit 3 free throws just before the halftime buzzer that tied the game. The Rockets were tied at half and ended up trailing by 14 after the third quarter. But KD was amazing. I thought Jabari kind of struggled offensively very early. He was missing open threes, which was very, very frustrating to watch. But then I thought he had, if you are looking for a silver lining from this game, it's Jabari's ability, in my personal opinion, Jabari's ability to now put the ball on the floor and get to spots in the mid-range. Tonight, I think he was 2 for 7 from 3, but he was 10 of 19 overall from the field. So he's 8 of 12 inside the arc, and he consistently got to mid-range spots and hit them. He's a guy, I think that there's more potential there than shows because he's, lower in the pecking order. Obviously Şengün and KD deserve those shots, but I think Jabari has developed quite a bit, grown quite a bit, and he's capable of more. I thought tonight he played well in those situations, and defensively his energy was good. and you guys feel free to chime in on Jabari, but one other thing I wanted to add. It wasn't exactly like the Rockets were within 3 or 4 points, but they did cut this lead, which got to, I think, 20, down to about 10 or 11. And Ime, he kept KD on the bench in that fourth quarter, did not ever take it seriously, even though that was happening with about 5-6 minutes left in the game. I don't want to say I'm surprised. Maybe he was chalking this up as a schedule loss, or maybe he just felt like the guys that are on the floor in the fourth quarter were bringing the energy. And so not as a slight to KD, but he just was like, if they can do it, great. But he never went back to KD. I was a little surprised by that.
And I think part of that was just that it was going to be too difficult to come back. And credit to Holiday and Okogie. They played well towards the middle of the fourth quarter, bringing just energy.
And Michael, what are your thoughts on Jabari before I chime in?
Those looked like some KD shots. He's definitely learning from Durant, which is what we all wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jabari's 6'11" and has a high release on his shot and gets good lift on his shot. That's a pretty good weapon right there. That kind of 13-foot jumper. And I like that he's not fading away as much. He used to be fading away all the time. I think he's going more straight up, a little fade, but more straight up. It's hard to block just given the length there. And this is speculation on my part, but one thing I noticed, even though we lost, that was very encouraging. And you mentioned that, no Şengün and KD on the bench and Amen having a bad game and Reed on the bench for a good chunk. Jabari started calling for the ball in the half-court offense. Mm. And, while that's not ideal, if you have championship aspirations, it was cool to see Jabari, who's, largely had to defer and he's kind of the fourth or fifth starter, the fourth or fifth guy in the lineup at crunch time. He was demanding the ball. Like, as soon as the ball crossed half court, he was clapping for it, like behind the 3-point line to get it and create something. And as far as just a growth moment, if we're looking for silver linings, that was cool to see Jabari kind of take control and say, look, I have the confidence to demand the ball in the half-court offense. And he put up the numbers. I thought he played an overall pretty good game. So that was somewhat encouraging to see, if only for one night.
Yeah, for me at Jabari, it's like what I'm loving seeing is just that he's putting the ball on the floor more. I mean, he's still not he's not Anthony Edwards or anything even remotely close, some sort of, Kyrie handle, nothing like that. But he's way better than he was his first year or two. And you can tell he put a ton of work in this past offseason. He's driving more. He's getting to the basket. He's, like I said, finding his mid-range spots. And I like what Michael had to say about sort of the KD effect. You can see some of that where he's just like, hey, I'm 6'10", I'm 6'11". I can turn and rise and fire over some of these players. We saw him, go at flag a couple of times. I like what I saw from him. It wasn't like a great game. Obviously, -13 in the box, -14 from men. These guys, when they're out on the floor, the Rockets, lost. So I'm not going to say this was some amazing performance. But Jabari, he's just one of those players that I love because he's got a role player floor. He's going to fit around a variety of different star players. But I also think that there's more to him that you could try to maximize. And I think we saw some of that tonight with Şengün out and him, putting up 19 shots, hitting 10 of them.
Yeah, and to touch on a couple other players Michael shouted out, Holiday I thought was a little sloppy in the first half, but I thought he brought some good energy and hit some big shots in the second half for us to kind of keep it from being even uglier. And then Okogie, who Michael mentioned, his defensive energy was. You kind of wish everyone else gave as much a crap as Josh Okogie did on defense tonight.
Yeah, I tell you what, he really does bring a ton of energy, and he is a really, really, really good on-ball defensive player. Okogie, I mean, he always has been in his career. The question really was 3-point shooting and him filling that role, but yeah, I mean, he's basically been a tremendous asset with the Rockets. Still waiting on Dorian Finney-Smith to come back. He has done a great job sort of filling that role. We'll see what happens when DFS does return. But Yeah, just overall, I don't want to use it as an excuse. Rockets did win in Phoenix, but they had, or excuse me, at home against Phoenix, but they had Steven Adams. To, I've said before, you can lose pretty much any one player on this team, but if you're going to lose two, you don't want to lose both Şengün and Adams, right? I mean, that's like at the same spot. You're still missing Tari. You're still missing DFS. That's a lot of loss for tonight. One other thing, and I don't mean to praise Dallas, for you guys having to deal with that at home, but they are kind of getting a little sneaky. The last 5 games, their offensive rating is really high. They're in the top 10 in offense in the last 5, and they just got crushed by OKC like everybody. I don't know. With Nembhard playing well, Flagg is starting to turn things around. As far as his early start, he's starting to get it. And Anthony Davis back, he has to stay healthy for them. We'll see what happens when Kyrie gets back there, but I don't know. That could be a sneaky play-in team if they do hang around for a bit and Kyrie does return this year. I personally hope that happens because I don't want Dallas in the lottery this year getting a top 3 or 4 pick. But they're a tough team. They've got size. They didn't even have Gafford or Lively tonight either.
Yeah, that defense is real. Yeah.
Well, go ahead,
Dallas
Michael.
defense is good. Scoring isn't great, and then obviously AD is really underrated. When he plays, he's amazing. Mavericks getting better.
Yeah, I mean, AD's phenomenal when he's healthy. I mean, a healthy AD, which is not something you see very often, is still just a hell of a player, and I think he just loves to take it out on Houston for some reason.
I can't remember if I mentioned this tonight, but Ime did say other than Jabari and Kevin tonight, and maybe a little bit Aaron Holiday, who, by the way, had 19 points and has been really unheralded this year, has done a great job. Ime said other than those guys was a no-show for a lot of guys. Poor night is what he described for a lot of guys. Obviously, Amen to me was first on that list. The Rockets don't play again. They played one game over the next 8 to 9 days. They just played 5 and 7. And now they don't play again, I believe, until Thursday. These are the 2 games that filled in after the NBA Cup. It's the Clippers at home, and then they're going to play at Denver. Going to play Denver again quickly after that. So they're going to get plenty of rest. Şengün hopefully gets over this illness. Adams is, this is just the plan as far as him missing games. But, that's the only good thing. Now, the Rockets haven't played. They kind of caught up a little bit here with this stretch, but they haven't played a ton of games this year. So another long stretch here without them playing too many, that's going to catch up to them later. I think as far as opponent strength, it's a pretty favorable schedule, but they will have a higher frequency of games. As far as this one, I think overall, if you're looking for optimistic viewpoint, missing a lot of players, second game of a back-to-back, you can chalk it up as just something you can look past and let's move on to the next one. But that next one is the Clippers on Thursday. David, you and I were just talking a little bit about how we all want the Clippers to win. Obviously, we want them to lose this one, but they just lost, or I believe the Clippers just lost to the Timberwolves tonight. What do you see coming up here? Clippers and then Denver after that at Denver.
Yeah, I mean, if the Clippers are going to lose all these games on their way to handing the Thunder a lottery pick, they might as well lose to us. So hoping to take advantage of the disharmony in Clipperland and take it to them. Although, quick shout out to James Harden, who just passed Melo for 10th all time on the scoring list. So shout out to Harden. And then having
2 Rockets
Denver
legends right there. 2 Rockets
exactly.
legends, both of them. Melo.
Yeah, both of them equally. Yeah. Clearly, Carmelo Anthony, number 7. Give that man number 7. Take it away from whoever had it at the time. They put his poster up. For those who know. And then for Denver to be your extra game, oof. That's a tough one.
That hurts. It does.
Yeah. That's going to be a tough game. I mean, Jokic kills us. Murray kills us. Gordon's still out, right?
Yes, he is. And he
at
won't
least
miss that
we don't
game.
have to deal with him. But, we better have Şengün. Without Şengün, we don't have a chance in that game.
I can't. I was surprised he missed this game, to be totally honest with you. I thought he was at the shoot around on Friday, and then I thought it was precautionary. Like, okay, Adams is going to play this one. He's going to miss the next one. We'll have Şengün for this one. Obviously, I mean, it's a serious thing he's dealing with, or he just felt he couldn't go. It just felt like tonight the Rockets, the way they played all around was like they almost gave it up a little bit. Like, okay, this is a scheduled loss in a way.
We've only had 2 back-to-backs, and we've lost the second night of both back-to-backs, right? So
yeah, this is something I have so here's a little funny story. I've mentioned this several times on the show. I have a spreadsheet that just sort of does predictive every year. The beginning of the year, I don't change it. I only have 80 games on the schedule, and I put it down the list. It is fluky how specifically accurate it's been. And it's for random weird reasons. I had the win and then the loss at Utah, which was crazy. I just said, well, the Rockets aren't going to go 4-0 against Utah. They'll go 3-1. So that's just where I put it. And then I had a loss tonight, but that's because I thought Dallas would be pretty good, not because, the way that going into this game, I would have thought the Rockets were going to win, but it's just crazy how this has kind of, been. I think they're 1 win behind schedule, but this is a 57, 58 win projection. So I think that, they're right on course. They're doing just fine. I want to ask you one thing, and I didn't mention this the other day, but Ben and I were talking about it. We're going to end up doing a show here soon, probably the 15th, when there's an unofficial trade season opened. I'm not asking you about Giannis. I don't think it's even worth talking about. I mean, as far as whether you would trade for Giannis or any specific Rocket trades or anything of that nature, but is that a feasible thing is what I'm saying, salary wise, if that is something that comes up? Could the Rockets actually do that? And you don't have to mention players, just could they do they have the salary to fit it and all of the above?
Hypothetically, yes, but not unless they either trade Şengün or Fred VanVleet is the kindest man on earth and waives his no trade clause to go to a soon-to-be crappy Milwaukee Bucks team. So in other words, probably not.
Yeah, that was the part that I was kind of getting at, was the Fred specific part, because I think that salary element. I just don't think there's any, as far as any specifics diving into it, there's nothing to really get excited about, or not excited, but just to discuss until Giannis says, yes, I want out. And then 2, I want to go to Houston among, 2 or 3 other teams. Until that happens, there's really nothing the Rockets can't wow somebody with an offer or anything. It's going to be controlled by Giannis at that point. But we're going to talk about that specifically. There's history there as far as the Rockets, I don't want to say pursuing Giannis, but having that on their radar before they acquired KD. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on whether Fred could actually do that. Could he do that, say, with the promise of, coming back on an MLE, opting out and that kind of, I know you're smirking here, but just something along those lines, like, okay, I'm going to do you a favor. I'll be back next year when I'm actually healthy.
Yeah, good luck with that. Michael, thoughts on Giannis to the Rockets?
I wouldn't rock the boat. I just don't want to be in a bidding war for Giannis. I don't think that would help us short term or long term.
Yeah, and Şengün's played too well. Like, if Şengün was even at the level he was last year, I'd probably be willing to do it. But he's been so terrific this year. I don't, and he's on such a great contract. I'm fine keeping Şengün and all our picks and all this other stuff, and pointing that elsewhere if the right trade comes up.
Yeah, I see Everett Moreland mentioning, do we have to take his brothers as well?
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Yes, the answer is yes, exactly. And again, like I said, sorry, Michael, did I cut you off? Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. But just, like I said, it's not worth saying, yeah, okay, I would trade this guy, trade that guy, because we don't know. I will say, though, I think if Giannis does say, I want Houston, things may look different. Like people may say, okay, well, now we have to really discuss and evaluate this. Right now, I don't think there's any reason to. And it is similar to the KD trade in the sense, at least the Rockets' viewpoint that they took was, we're not desperate to move Jalen Green or any of that stuff. We're looking for something that fits what we do. If it works, then yeah, okay. And if not, we're good. And I think the Rockets can definitely say right now where they are, we're good. But as somebody like Giannis, a former Defensive Player of the Year, and obviously an MVP candidate, multiple-time MVP, if he does become available, just knowing the Rockets, there's no way they won't at least explore it. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Anything you get? Oh, go ahead, Michael.
I also think Van Vliet is underrated as just a leader and a vet to have around, and you might be missing some of that if you trade him.
Yeah, he's a definite core culture guy, and you look at all the coaching he's in. They had him mic'd up tonight, I think, or last night, and I mean, he really is like another coach out there. He's still providing all the veteran leadership and mentorship for Reed and the other young guys. It's going to be so hard to trade him, let alone get him to waive his no trade. I mean, I think he loves it here. He is a core leader in the clubhouse here. I don't see why he'd want to leave.
Yeah. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Anything you guys want to say about this game? Obviously, we want to wipe our memories clean of this one and move on to Thursday against the Clippers.
You got one of those Men in Black things that you can shoot at us in the face.
Yeah, exactly. And James Harden will be back, so it's another reunion of sort. But yeah, I appreciate you guys doing this. Again, Rockets fall 122-109, I believe, was the final score, and it was not pretty for Amen Thompson. Hopefully he bounces back with a good game against the Clippers. He has done a great job historically defending James Harden, so I would hope and expect to see the same on Thursday. On behalf of David Weiner and Michael Weiner, I appreciate both of you guys and all of you for tuning in and supporting, and we will see y'all on Thursday. Have a great week.